The late afternoon sun slanted through the glass windows of Brightmart's superstore, casting long golden rays across the polished floor. Shoppers moved in tired lines, carts squeaking, children whining, and scanners beeped in a steady rhythm that filled the entire place like a mechanical heartbeat. But then everything stopped. A sudden crack of hostility shattered the normal hum. "I said we don't serve your kind here." The voice exploded from the cashier's counter, sharp, cold, and dripping with disdain. Heads turned instantly. There at lane 4 stood a small, trembling black girl, no older than 12. Her clothes were worn, the hem of her faded dress slightly torn, and her shoes looked 2 sizes too big, as if they belonged to someone else long before her. In her thin hands she clutched a single carton of milk and a small packet of bread, holding onto them like they were her last lifeline. Her big brown eyes glistened with embarrassment and fear. Please, sir," she whispered, voice cracking. I just need these. I have the money, I promise." The cashier, a tall, thick man in his late 30s with a stiff corporate vest and a name tag that read Mr. Randall, Floor Manager, leaned forward over the counter, eyes burning with cruelty. "Don't you dare talk back to me," he snapped loudly so everyone could hear. "I told you already this store isn't a charity. We don't have time for kids like you coming in here begging and stealing." Her eyes widened in shock. I wasn't stealing," she whispered. "I counted every coin. I just want to buy these and go home." Mr. Randall snorted aggressively, snatching the milk from her tiny hands and tossing it aside like it was garbage. "You expect me to believe that?" he barked. "Look at you. Do you think I'm stupid? You people always pull this stunt. First you buy bread, then you run out with the whole store." Gasps rippled across the onlookers. A couple of shoppers exchanged uncomfortable glances, but no one stepped forward. Not one voice defended her. "Sir, please," the girl whimpered, her fingers twisting together. "My baby brother is hungry. My mother, she's—" "Oh, enough with the sob stories," he shouted, slamming his palm on the counter. "Get out before I call security." Her small body jolted at the sudden bang, her lip trembled, and tears began to gather, but Mr. Randall wasn't done. He stepped from behind his counter, towering over her like a shadow ready to swallow her whole. "You're wasting my time," he growled. "Get out now." The girl backed away, shaking uncontrollably, but she didn't leave, not because she didn't want to, but because her legs were frozen with fear and humiliation. Around her, adults stared, some in pity, others in discomfort, but none moved, none spoke. None dared challenge the man in the uniform. As the cashier took another threatening step forward, the girl finally whispered, almost to herself, I'm not a thief." Mr. Randall let out a mocking laugh. "Sure," he sneered, "and I'm the president." The crowd chuckled nervously, trying to distance themselves from the cruelty they were witnessing. But then a new voice entered the tense scene, a voice calm, steady, low, but powerful enough to silence the entire room. "Is this how you treat all your customers?" Everything froze again. The girl slowly turned her head. Mr. Randall stiffened, annoyed. The crowd parted just enough for one figure to step forward. A tall man wearing a crisp charcoal suit, polished shoes, and a quiet air of authority stood behind the girl. His silver hair glowed under the lights, and his blue eyes held a piercing calm. He looked refined, wealthy, and dangerously composed. Mr. Randall rolled his eyes. "Sir, mind your business. This girl doesn't belong here." The man raised an eyebrow. "Doesn't belong here." "I saw her waiting in line like everyone else." "She's lying, probably planned to steal," Randall said defensively. The man studied the trembling girl, her tear-streaked face, her shaking hands, her desperate eyes, and something shifted in his expression, a deep sadness. A flicker of anger he kept carefully contained. He looked back at the manager. "Do you always accuse children without proof?" he asked calmly. Randall scoffed. "You don't know how these kids are." The man's eyes darkened. "Actually," he said quietly, "I know more than you think." People in the crowd exchanged curious glances. Whispers started. Something about this man felt important, very important. Randall, annoyed by the attention, straightened his uniform. "Sir, unless you're here to buy something, step aside. We don't have time for this. This girl needs to get out." And then, trying to impress the audience watching him, he added loudly, "If the owners saw this kind of trash in their store, they'd kick her out even faster." The girl flinched, the crowd winced, but the man, he simply stared at the manager, unfazed, almost pitying him. Then he spoke again, this time with a coldness that chilled the air. "I believe," he said slowly, "you have absolutely no idea who you're talking to." Randall frowned. "What?" The man took a step forward. Every spectator instinctively held their breath. "You're about to make the biggest mistake of your career," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Because everything you think you know about this girl, about this store, about your job is about to change." The cashier blinked, confused. The man looked around the store, then back at the crowd watching him, and then he delivered the line that would haunt the manager forever. You should have treated her with kindness because this little girl's life is about to change, and so is yours. A ripple of shock spread through the onlookers. The girl stared up at the stranger, confused and overwhelmed. Mr. Randall blinked rapidly, uncertain for the first time. What do you mean?" he stammered. The man smiled faintly, but there was nothing warm in it. "You'll find out soon." There was a heavy silence. Everyone felt that something massive, something life-changing was about to be revealed, but the man didn't reveal it, not yet. Instead, he gently placed a hand on the girl's shoulder, shielding her behind him as if she were someone precious, someone important. Then he turned to the frozen crowd and said with calm authority, "Let's go back to how this story truly began this morning." The story rewinds, pulling us away from the cold, fluorescent lights of the Brightmart superstore and back into the warmth of a tiny, run-down neighborhood on the very edge of town. A place where cracked pavements told stories, where laughter fought every day against hunger, and where hope was the only wealth most families had. The sun had not yet fully risen. A soft orange glow brushed against the peeling walls of a narrow wooden house, barely big enough for a family, yet somehow still holding the fragile threads of their lives together. Inside this humble home lived a little girl named Amara. She was 12, small for her age, with big brown eyes that carried entire galaxies of dreams. Her curly black hair, usually tied into a loose ponytail with a fraying ribbon, fell messily over her face as she quietly rose from her thin bedding that morning. The house was silent, not the peaceful kind of silence, but the heavy, aching kind that came from exhaustion and uncertainty. Amara glanced toward the corner of the room where her mother lay curled under two mismatched blankets. The frail woman's breathing was shallow, each inhale sounding like it cost her more effort than her tired body could afford. "Mom," Amara whispered. Her mother didn't respond at first. After a moment, her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes clouded by days of sickness and sleeplessness. "Morning, baby," she murmured, voice thin and dry. "You're up early." Amara forced a smile, the kind a child shouldn't have to force. "I just wanted to check on you," she said softly. "Are you feeling better today?" Her mother attempted to sit up, then winced as pain shot through her chest. She leaned back again, shaking her head. "I'll be all right, I just need to rest." But Amara knew she wasn't all right. She knew her mother had been getting worse for weeks, coughing through the night, barely able to eat, barely able to stand. And then there was her baby brother, Isaiah, only 2 years old, sleeping restlessly on a small pillow beside their mother. His tiny fist clutched the torn sleeve of Amara's old dress, a habit he developed whenever he felt cold or scared. Amara kneeled beside the little boy, brushing her fingers over his cheek. "SHH, it's okay," she whispered when he stirred. "I'm right here." His stomach growled softly, a sound that felt like a dagger slipping into her heart. "Mom," Amara whispered again, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Isaiah is hungry." Her mother's eyes filled with helpless tears. "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I thought maybe I'd be able to get up today, maybe find something." Her voice broke off into a cough so sharp that Amara's heart jumped in fear. Without thinking, the little girl reached for the half-empty jug of water beside the bed and held it up to her mother's lips. "Drink, Mom," she pleaded. "It's okay." Her mother barely managed a sip. Amara looked toward the old wooden cabinet, the place her mom always put groceries. Empty, completely empty. She checked the small tin box under the bed there, savings, though calling it that was almost a joke. Inside were a few coins, dull, worn, almost worthless individually, yet everything they had collectively. Amara counted them quietly in her head, not enough for much, but maybe, just maybe, enough for a little milk and some bread. She looked back at her mother. "Mom," she said softly, "I'll go to the store." Her mother's eyes widened. No, you won't. It's too far and the streets." "I'll be fine," Amara said quickly. "I've gone before. I can do it." Her mother tried to argue, but her breath gave out again. Seeing this, Amara gently took her mother's cold hand. "I have to," she whispered. "Isaiah needs food, and you need something too." Her mother's hand trembled around hers. "I'm so sorry, baby," she whispered. "Don't be," Amara said with a brave smile, a smile too big for her small, tired face. "You always take care of us, so today I'll take care of you." She stood, went to the corner, and grabbed her thin brown sweater, the one with small holes along the sleeves, but still warm enough if she hugged it tightly. She tucked her ribbon into her hair, rolled her shoulders back, and faced the doorway. But before she could leave, her mother gathered what little strength she had left. "Amara," she whispered, her voice trembling, Be careful, don't talk to strangers, stay on the main road. And if the store is crowded, come back, don't let anyone treat you badly. Amara looked at her mother for a long, tender moment. I'll be all right, she said, trying to sound confident. I promise. Her mother nodded weakly, taking a final look at the nearly empty room, the cracked walls, the broken fan, the blankets spread on the floor. Amara felt something tighten in her chest. She hated that her family had to live like this. She hated feeling powerless. She hated seeing her mother suffer and her baby brother cry from hunger. But today she could do something. Something small, yes, but something. She picked up the coins, wrapped them in a piece of cloth, and slipped them into her pocket. Then she opened the door. A cold morning breeze hit her face instantly. The sky was gray, hinting rain. Streets were wet from the night before, and distant traffic hummed like a restless beast. Amara stepped outside barefoot because the shoes she wore earlier in the hook scene, those she borrowed last minute from a neighbor, desperate to look proper in the big store. But now in the morning flashback, she walked in her bare feet, her soles toughened from years of doing exactly that. With each step, she repeated a quiet prayer. Please let the store be kind today. Please let there be no trouble. Please let me bring food home. As she walked past the neighbors' houses, some quiet, some already bustling, a few people nodded at her, recognizing the little girl who always helped her mother with everything. Amara smiled back politely, hiding the desperation in her heart. The road to the store was long, longer than anyone her age should walk alone. But she didn't complain. Her mother needed her. Her baby brother needed her, so she kept walking. Past the old willow tree, past the rusting playground slides, past the bus stop where children in clean uniforms laughed and chatted on their way to school, a place Amara rarely got to be. Her hands gripped the coins tightly. Her breath puffed white in the cold air. Her heart beat faster the closer she got to the commercial district. Brightmart sat at the very end of the main street, tall, shiny, modern, and intimidating. Like a world she didn't belong to, but she swallowed her fears. Someone had to be brave today, and that someone was her. Inside her chest, hope and worry fought like twin flames. Maybe today would be okay. Maybe the cashier would be kind. Maybe she could just buy the bread, the milk, and go home without anyone noticing her. With innocent faith, the kind only a child can still carry, Amara pushed open the glass door to Brightmart. She stepped inside. She didn't know it yet, but the moment she entered, her life, and the life of the cruel man who would soon try to destroy her, was already set on a collision course with destiny. And at the end of that road, someone powerful was waiting to change everything. The automatic doors of Brightmart slid open with a soft hiss, releasing a gust of cold, conditioned air that wrapped around Amara's small frame. For a moment, she stood still wide-eyed, overwhelmed by the vastness of the store. Shelves stretched endlessly, stacked high with colorful boxes and neatly arranged products she'd only seen in commercials. Shiny floors reflected the glaring lights overhead. A loudspeaker announcement crackled through the air. Welcome to Brightmart, where your needs come first. Amara swallowed hard. It didn't feel like her needs came first. It felt like she was stepping into a world that wasn't built for someone like her, a world where she would always be looked at twice, if at all. Still, she took a small breath and walked in. She moved quietly, almost timidly, toward the grocery section. Her eyes scanned for bread, something simple, something cheap, and after searching through rows and rows of shelves, she finally found the lowest-priced loaf. She reached for it, her fingers brushing the soft plastic packaging. Her heart fluttered. This will help Isaiah. And Mom, maybe the milk will help her get stronger. Clutching the bread gently, she made her way toward the refrigerators. The milk aisle felt colder than the rest of the store, the air chilling her thin arms as she reached for a small carton. The cheapest brand, not too big, not too small, just enough. She held both items to her chest, careful not to drop anything. Then she turned toward the front of the store, the checkout lanes. As she walked, she repeated the steps in her mind. Give the cashier the money, smile politely, don't talk too much, don't draw attention, just buy it and go home. But fate had already woven something else into this moment, something she would remember for the rest of her life. At lane 4 stood Mr. Randall, the floor manager, tall, broad, and already irritated from a long day. His sharp eyes scanned the store like a hawk waiting for prey. His mouth formed a permanent scowl, the kind that told a child instantly, don't come near me. But lane 4 was the only lane open with a short line. 2 customers only. A blessing, Amara thought. She stepped quietly into the line, keeping her gaze down. The woman in front of her, holding 3 packs of soda, looked back once, eyes widening slightly at Amara's worn clothes. She turned forward again immediately, pretending she hadn't seen anything. Amara hugged the bread tighter. Line moved slowly. Her little feet shuffled anxiously. She could feel the weight of the store pressing on her shoulders, the bright lights, the murmurs, the stares she imagined were aimed at her. When the woman ahead finished paying and left, it was finally Amara's turn. She stepped forward. She placed the bread and milk gently on the counter. Mr. Randall didn't even look at her when he scanned the bread. His jaw was clenched, his expression impatient. Then, as he reached for the milk, he finally looked down. His eyes froze, his lips curled. A sneer formed instantly. Here it was, that moment she always feared. "Where are your parents?" he asked sharply. Amara blinked. My mom is sick. I came by myself." "Of course you did," he muttered under his breath, but loud enough for her to hear. "Figures." Amara's fingers tightened. "Sir, I have money." He ignored her, leaning closer with suspicion. "What are you planning to do with this?" he asked suddenly. Her heart skipped. What do you mean?" Did the carton of milk. "Kids like you walk in here, grab things, pretend to pay, then run. I've seen it 100 times. Her voice trembled. "No, sir, I am going to pay, I promise." "Promise," he said in mockery. "Your promises mean nothing." A few people in the nearby aisles glanced over. No one intervened. Amara reached into her pocket and carefully unwrapped the cloth, placing the handful of coins on the counter. "This is all I have," she said quietly. "But it's enough. I counted." Randall looked at the coins and smirked. "This," he scoffed. "This isn't even enough for a candy bar." "It is," she insisted softly. "It is enough. It should be enough." He let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, sweetheart, we don't run a discount orphanage here." Her eyes widened. "I'm not," but he cut her off harshly. "You shouldn't even be here. Look at your clothes. Look at your hands." He gestured dismissively. "You can't afford anything in this store." Her cheeks burned. She lowered her gaze, trying to stay calm. "I need this food, sir," she whispered. "My little brother." "I don't care," he snapped. His voice echoed. A child in another aisle flinched. A mother held her son's hand tighter, but no one stepped forward. "Kids like you come in here to cause trouble," Randall went on, puffing out his chest. "Sneaking around, trying to look innocent. I know the type." Amara stepped back, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm not sneaking," she whispered. "Liar." He barked, slamming the milk onto the counter so hard the carton nearly burst. She jumped, her breath hitched. A few people slowed their carts to watch the unfolding scene. A couple exchanged whispers. One elderly man frowned but did nothing. "That's it," Randall declared. "Put your hands where I can see them." My hands," she stammered. "Now," terrified, she raised her trembling hands in the air. Gasps spread. Mr. Randall turned to the crowd, raising his voice dramatically. "Caught her trying to shoplift. Again, these people think they can take advantage of us." A chill hit Amara harder than the winter air outside. These people, that phrase stabbed her. Her lips trembled. "I didn't steal anything," but her protest was swallowed by the murmurs of strangers. Randall stepped out from behind the counter, looming over her. Her small body shrank away instinctively. "You're wasting my time," he growled. "Get out before I call the police." Her tears fell now, silent, hot, unstoppable. "Please," she whispered. "Sir, my baby brother is hungry. My mother, she's really sick." "Oh, here we go with the drama." He rolled his eyes. "Every single one of you has the same sob story." "I'm telling the truth," she cried softly. His laugh was hollow, cruel, sharp. "Truth. You don't even know what that word means." Amara's breath broke into pieces. She didn't understand why being poor made people so cruel. Why being small made people treat her like she didn't matter. Why being black made her look guilty before she even spoke. She just wanted bread. She just wanted milk. She just wanted her family to survive another day. Was that so wrong? Randall took a step closer, towering over her shaky frame. "You don't belong here," he hissed. Her voice cracked as she whispered. "Then where do I belong?" "Anywhere but here," he spat. "Now get out." His shout reverberated across the aisles. Amara staggered backward, heart thundering in her chest. Her breath shuddered, and she looked desperately at the crowd, searching for even one kind face. One person who cared, one person who would stand up for her, but every face she saw looked away. Adults pretended to study their shopping lists. Parents steered children away. Workers kept their heads down, afraid of losing their jobs. She was alone, completely, painfully alone. Randall moved toward her again, and that's when the moment from part one returned. The crowd parted, the air shifted, a powerful presence stepped forward. The savior, the man from part one, stood behind her, calm yet commanding. His eyes locked onto Randall with a cold fire. And that was when he asked, "Is this how you treat all your customers?" But this time, we understand what led to that moment. We understand the weight of the girl's trembling. We understand the cruel words that broke her spirit. We understand the silence of the bystanders. The confrontation was more than a scene. It was a breaking point, and destiny had just walked through the door behind her. Silence settled over Brightmart like a thick blanket the moment the stranger stepped forward. His presence alone seemed to command the air, tall, dignified, with silver hair neatly brushed back and eyes that held the kind of authority people didn't question. His charcoal gray suit was tailored perfectly, and his polished shoes tapped softly against the floor as he approached. Shoppers instinctively moved aside for him, though no one knew why. He didn't have the look of a celebrity. He didn't have the look of a politician. But he carried himself like someone who could change the entire atmosphere of a room just by existing. Amara, still trembling, turned slightly to see him. Her eyes were swollen from tears, her cheeks red, her hands shaking so hard she had to clutch the bread to keep it from falling. When the man's gaze met hers, his stern expression softened, not out of pity, but out of genuine human concern. "Are you all right, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice gentle. Amara tried to speak, but her words dissolved into a sob she fought desperately to hide. She wiped her face quickly and nodded, though she clearly wasn't all right. Mr. Randall stepped forward with irritation twisting his features. "Sir," he snapped, "this doesn't concern you. This girl is causing trouble." The stranger held up a hand, just one hand, calm, controlled, commanding silent obedience, and somehow Randall's voice died instantly. The man turned to the little girl again, bending slightly to meet her eye level. "You're safe," he whispered. "I'm here now." Her lips trembled. No one had ever spoken to her like that in public, especially not when she was being humiliated. She didn't know why he was being kind, but she clung to those words like they were the only rope keeping her from drowning. Then the man slowly stood upright, his shoulders straightening, his presence solidifying into something far more intimidating. His eyes, calm just moments ago, now hardened like sharpened steel as he faced Randall. "Explain yourself," he said quietly, not a question, a command. Randall bristled. "Sir, this child," the man corrected sharply. "Start by addressing her properly. She has a name, she has dignity, and she deserves respect." The crowd gasped softly. No one had ever spoken to Randall like that. Randall stiffened. "Look, I don't know who you think you are, but this girl tried to steal from the store. I caught her. She had barely any money." "She placed money on your counter," the man interrupted. "I watched her. She never hid anything. She never ran. She never acted suspicious." The stranger stepped closer, lowering his voice but sharpening its edge. "You accused a starving child of a crime simply because of how she looks." Randall's jaw tensed, but he refused to back down. "She doesn't belong in this store," he muttered. "People like her just cause chaos. People like her?" The stranger repeated, his voice dropping into a dangerous tone. Randall sputtered, realizing too late that he had stepped into a trap. I didn't mean." "Oh, you meant every word," the man said. "And the entire store heard you." The watching crowd shifted uneasily. A few shoppers lowered their heads, ashamed they hadn't stepped in earlier. Amara hugged the carton of milk to her chest, wishing she could disappear. The man finally exhaled a slow breath as if trying to rein in his anger. "Let's do something simple," he said. "Let the girl buy her items and go home. No drama, no insults, just basic human decency." Randall scoffed. "No, she can't pay. She doesn't have enough." "She has enough," the man cut in. "And if she doesn't, then I will pay. Problem solved." But Randall wasn't ready to lose control. "Look, I don't know why you're defending her," he snapped, "but this store has rules. The owners wouldn't want someone like her wandering around their property, and I'm responsible for making sure our store maintains its standards." The stranger tilted his head. "And you believe the owners would support what you just did? Humiliating a child in front of dozens of customers." Randall opened his mouth, then closed it again, suddenly unsure. The man's voice dropped even lower. "Tell me, do you even know who owns Brightmart?" Randall rolled his eyes. "Of course I do, some billionaire who's probably chilling in a mansion somewhere. Why, you know him?" The stranger let out a single cold laugh, a laugh that didn't reach his eyes, a laugh that made something in the room shift. He stepped forward until he was standing just inches from Randall. "Know him?" the stranger murmured. "Yes." He paused. Then calmly and clearly he said the words that made every shopper in the store freeze. "I am him." Silence, thick, heavy, paralyzing. Randall blinked. What did you just say?" The man reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a sleek black leather wallet, and opened it. Inside was an ID badge with the company crest, a signature, and the name. Richard Caldwell, founder and chief executive officer, Brightmart Corporation. Gasps, whispers, stunned stares. A woman dropped a can of soup from her cart. A man covered his mouth in disbelief. Teenagers in aisle 7 recorded the moment with shaking hands. Randall's face drained of all color. You're Mr. Caldwell?" he whispered. "Yes." The answer was simple, powerful, undeniable. Randall staggered back as if he'd been punched. But sir, I didn't know, I thought. You thought you could treat this child however you pleased because no one important was watching, Caldwell said coldly. You thought cruelty was acceptable as long as it was directed at someone defenseless. Randall shook his head rapidly. Yes, sir, I swear she looked suspicious. I was just enforcing policy. Policy, Caldwell repeated, stepping closer. Show me the policy that says you can verbally abuse a child. Show me the policy that allows discrimination. Show me the policy that permits you to use your position to humiliate someone simply because they're poor or small or black. Randall had no answer. He stood there trembling. Caldwell's voice softened, but not in mercy, in disappointment. I built this company from the ground up, he said. 40 years of work, thousands of employees, millions of customers, all founded on one principle, respect. Respect for every human being who walks through those doors. He pointed at the bread and milk still trembling in Amara's hands. And today you disgraced everything this company stands for. Randall opened his mouth again, but no sound came out. Caldwell turned away from him and faced the little girl. Sweetheart, he said softly, what's your name? She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Amara. Amara, he repeated gently. That's a beautiful name. Her lower lip quivered. I didn't steal anything. I know, he said firmly. I saw the whole thing. But he said people like me. Caldwell crouched down, meeting her eyes. There is nothing wrong with you, he said. Nothing at all. You are kind, you are brave, and you deserve to be treated with respect. Her tears spilled again, but these were different. These were the tears of someone who had finally been seen. Caldwell stood slowly and turned back to the manager. Mr. Randall, he said quietly, hand over your badge. The crowd inhaled sharply. Randall froze. Yes, sir, please. Now, Caldwell commanded. With trembling fingers, Randall removed his name tag. His hands shook so violently that the metal clasp nearly slipped. He held it out toward Caldwell like someone offering a weapon, terrified of the consequences. Caldwell didn't take it. Give it to her, he said, nodding at Amara. Randall stared at him, horrified. W what? You humiliated her publicly, Caldwell said. Now you will answer to her publicly. Randall turned slowly toward Amara. His eyes darted between her and the crowd. Shame crept up his neck like fire. Here, he croaked. Jay, just take it. Amara didn't move. She looked at the badge, then at Caldwell, confused. Caldwell nodded, reassuring her. It's okay, he whispered. With hesitant fingers, Amara took the badge. Randall swallowed hard, eyes burning with humiliation. And then Caldwell spoke the words that sealed the moment. You're fired. The crowd erupted, gasps, murmurs, whispers of disbelief. Randall swayed as if the ground shifted under his feet. Caldwell continued. And you will never work for this company or any partner company ever again. Randall's jaw dropped. His future vanished before his eyes. Security approached silently, taking him by the arms. Caldwell didn't look at him again. Instead, he turned to Amara. Sweetheart, he said gently, let's take care of you now. And for the first time in her life. Amara felt safe. Really, truly safe. The crowd of shoppers slowly began to disperse, their whispers still hanging in the air like smoke. Some shook their heads, others murmured apologies, and a few offered quiet nods to Amara, as though acknowledging the injustice she had just endured. But her attention was fixed entirely on Richard Caldwell, the man who had stepped into her worst moment and turned it into salvation. Caldwell knelt again, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. His presence radiated calm authority mixed with genuine kindness. Amara's hands, still clutching the store badge, trembled slightly. She felt like she was in a dream. The nightmare of humiliation had ended, and now reality seemed almost too good to be true. Amara, Caldwell said softly, how are you feeling? She swallowed, trying to steady her voice. I don't know, I feel scared, but also safe. That's normal, he assured her. No one should ever have treated you like that, not anyone. Not ever. Her gaze dropped to the bread and milk on the counter. I wanted to help my brother and my mom. I didn't want trouble. You did the right thing, Caldwell said firmly. You were brave, that's what counts. Amara's eyes welled again. But he was so mean, and everyone just stared. Caldwell's expression softened. That's why I'm here. Sometimes the people in power forget what really matters. You remind us of it, your courage, your honesty. And I promise you, you won't ever be alone like this again. Meanwhile, the former manager, Randall, was escorted to a quiet office by security. His mind raced with disbelief and shame. He had humiliated a child publicly, he had insulted her, and now he was out of a job. The consequences of his arrogance were immediate, irreversible. Caldwell didn't even wait to hear excuses or apologies. He instructed human resources to report Randall to corporate headquarters for breach of company conduct, citing harassment, discrimination, and public humiliation of a minor. The incident would be fully documented, and his name would carry the stain of shame for the rest of his life. Within hours, the story spread throughout Brightmart branches, creating a ripple of awareness that reinforced Caldwell's zero-tolerance policy for cruelty. Employees across the chain would later speak about the incident with awe, and it became a lesson in humanity that no training manual could fully capture. Caldwell turned back to Amara. His eyes softened even more as he knelt to meet her gaze again. "Amara," he began, "I want to make sure you and your family have everything you need starting today." Her brows furrowed. "Everything, sir?" "Yes," he said warmly. "Food, a safe home, medical care for your mother, and education. I want you to have the life you deserve, one without hunger, fear, or humiliation." Amara's lips trembled. "But I don't know how to." "You'll learn," Caldwell interrupted gently. "We'll figure it out together. You're smart, kind, and brave. Those things matter more than anything money can buy." Her eyes brimmed with tears again. She could barely speak, but one small word escaped. "Thank you," Caldwell smiled, a rare warmth spreading across his face. "No, Amara, I should be thanking you. You reminded me why this world is worth fighting for." He guided her to a quiet corner of the store, away from lingering shoppers and the embarrassment of her previous ordeal. There he handed her a small card. "This," he explained, "is a direct line to me. If you ever need anything, school supplies, help with homework, or even someone to talk to, you call me." "Understood," Amara nodded, her voice trembling. "Yes, sir." And Caldwell continued, "The first thing we're going to do is take care of your mom and Isaiah. They're your family, and families look out for each other." Within hours, Caldwell personally arranged a visit to their home. A moving van arrived to bring them to a safe, fully furnished apartment. The rooms were warm, bright, and welcoming, a stark contrast to the cramped, peeling wooden walls they had left behind. Her mother, still weak from illness, was moved to a top medical facility for full evaluation and treatment. Caldwell personally ensured that every doctor, every medication, and every therapy session was covered. Isaiah, wide-eyed and unsure at first, was given toys and a small playground set outside their new home, simple joys he had never known. When Amara saw her mother resting comfortably in a clean bed, with the doctor reassuring her that she would recover, something inside Amara that had been broken for years finally began to heal. Caldwell knelt beside her once more. "Amara," he said, "this isn't just about surviving. This is about thriving. You and your family deserve more than just food and shelter. You deserve opportunity, education, happiness." Amara's voice was barely audible. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Caldwell said gently. "Just live your life fully, learn, grow, be brave, and remember, kindness matters. That's why I'm here and why I will always be here for you." Later that evening, after the children were fed and her mother rested comfortably, Amara and Caldwell sat together at a small table in the apartment's modest kitchen. The city lights glimmered through the window, and the hum of distant traffic was almost comforting. "Amara," Caldwell began, "do you know why I stepped in today?" She shook her head. "Because you knew he was being cruel," he smiled faintly. "Partly, but mostly because I've built everything I have to protect people like you, honest, brave, good people who deserve respect, and I saw that you were being treated unjustly." Her eyes shone. "I never thought someone like you, someone who owns the store, would notice me." "You're right," he said. "Most people don't, but I do. Now I promise your family will never have to live in fear again." Amara's mother, weak but alert, entered the room and hugged Caldwell tightly. I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You don't need to," Caldwell said warmly. "Just take care of each other, love each other. That's the best thank you in the world." The three of them sat together, sharing a quiet moment that marked the beginning of a new life, one without hunger, fear, or humiliation. For Amara, it was more than a rescue. It was the start of a life where courage, kindness, and integrity would finally be rewarded. Over the following months, Caldwell ensured that Amara attended a prestigious local school, providing everything she needed for academic success: uniforms, books, tutoring, and even music lessons. Her mother regained her health fully, while Isaiah thrived, growing strong and playful. The family moved into a neighborhood where safety, opportunity, and community were constants, a stark contrast to the hardships they had endured. Amara, once timid and withdrawn, began to blossom. Her confidence grew, her laughter returned, and she approached life with determination and hope. And every time she looked at Caldwell, she remembered the day a single act of compassion had changed the trajectory of her life forever. Several years had passed since that fateful afternoon in Brightmart, yet the memory of it remained vivid in Amara's mind. The girl who had once trembled under the scornful gaze of a cruel cashier had grown into a young woman of extraordinary resilience, confidence, and grace. The small, timid child who had walked barefoot along cracked streets in search of bread and milk now strode confidently down a tree-lined avenue in her own neighborhood. The apartment complex she had once moved into with Caldwell's help had been upgraded to a home filled with warmth, laughter, and security. Every corner of it bore reminders of her family's journey. Pictures of her smiling with Caldwell, awards from school, and a tiny playground where Isaiah now played joyfully with other children. Amara's mother, fully recovered, tended a small home garden she had once only dreamed of having, cultivating herbs and vegetables that reminded her of the small joys she had almost been denied. Isaiah, now 5, ran through the yard laughing, his energy boundless, a living testament to the love and care Caldwell had helped provide. And as for Amara herself, she had grown tall, graceful, and strong in spirit. Her brown eyes, once wide with fear, now glimmered with intelligence, curiosity, and compassion. She had a scholarship at one of the city's finest schools, her dreams nurtured into tangible possibilities. She had discovered a love for writing and public speaking, often volunteering to share her story in local community centers to inspire other children who faced hardship. One bright Saturday morning, Amara walked through a familiar part of the city, the streets where she had once trudged with coins in her pocket, holding on to hope for her family. She remembered the cracked pavement beneath her feet, the smell of wet asphalt, the distant sounds of buses and vendors, and the fear she had felt entering the doors of Brightmart. But this time she didn't feel fear. She felt pride, she felt gratitude, and most importantly, she felt purpose. As she passed a Brightmart branch, the very store where she had once been humiliated, she paused. The glass doors gleamed under the sun, just like that day, but the memory was different now. She no longer remembered it with shame or pain. She remembered it as the beginning of her transformation. A small smile touched her lips as she walked in, greeted politely by employees who knew the story. She noticed the banners above the entrance, Brightmart, respect and care for every customer. She thought of Mr. Randall, the man whose cruelty had catalyzed her life-changing journey. She didn't feel anger toward him anymore. Instead, she felt a calm sense of justice. Randall had faced the consequences for his actions. He had lost his job, his reputation tarnished by the very principle he had broken. Justice, swift and fair, had been served. And then she thought of Caldwell. Later that afternoon, Amara visited Caldwell's office. The massive glass windows overlooked the city skyline, a view that once would have been unimaginable to a young girl from a tiny, broken apartment. Caldwell stood to greet her, as composed, dignified, and commanding as ever. "Amara," he said warmly, a smile spreading across his face. "Look at you, you've grown so much." She smiled back, feeling the same warmth and reassurance she had felt the first time he stepped into her life. "Mr. Caldwell," she began softly, "I just wanted to thank you again for everything, for my family, for me, for believing in me when no one else did." He shook his head gently. "Amara, you don't need to thank me. You've done the hard part. You were brave, honest, and kind. I just made sure the world finally treated you the way you deserved." Amara sat down, a sense of peace washing over her. "Sometimes I still remember that day in Brightmart. I remember the fear, the humiliation, the way I felt completely alone." Caldwell's gaze softened. "I remember too, but that day also showed something far more powerful, that one act of courage can meet one act of kindness and change everything. You were brave enough to stand there, even trembling, and I was privileged enough to stand beside you. That's all it was." She nodded. "It feels like a lifetime ago, but also like it happened just yesterday. And I realize now that moment didn't break me. It made me who I am today." "And who you are," Caldwell said, "is extraordinary. Remember, Amara, your life now is proof of how compassion can change the world. Never forget that." By evening, Amara returned to her apartment, where her mother and Isaiah were waiting. They sat together for dinner, the aroma of freshly cooked food filling the air, a stark contrast to the hunger and deprivation of the past. Amara looked around the room at the warmth, at the laughter, at the simple abundance they now enjoyed, and her heart swelled. She reached for her mother's hand. "Mom," she said softly, "I promise I'll make the most of everything we've been given. I'll make sure Isaiah grows up safe and happy. And I'll make sure you never have to worry again." Her mother squeezed her hand, tears glimmering in her eyes. "You've already given me more than I could ever ask for, Amara. You've grown into a remarkable young woman. We are all so proud of you." Isaiah crawled onto Amara's lap, hugging her tightly. "I love you, Amara," he whispered. "I love you too, little brother," she said, hugging him back, her heart full. And in that moment, Amara realized that life had transformed entirely. The pain and humiliation of the past had given way to hope, security, and opportunity, a life where her courage had been rewarded and her family protected. Amara, standing on the balcony of her apartment years later, gazing at the city lights with her family around her, a voiceover begins. Humanity transcends race, wealth, and circumstance. Sometimes all it takes is one act of courage to meet one act of kindness to change the course of a life. And sometimes justice comes swiftly to those who deserve it, reminding us all that dignity, compassion, and courage will always prevail. Amara's face, confident, hopeful, alive. Then it shifts to Caldwell's office in the distance, where the same man who had changed her life continues to inspire others to lead with kindness. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience with the powerful reminder. A single act of kindness has the power to change a world of despair into a life of hope.